Good afternoon, everyone. This is a special called meeting of the City of Franklin Ethics Commission. To date is July the 27th of 2023. The members of the commission are Bonnie Wilson to my right, Michelle Thompson to my immediate left, Jerry Sharber on the other side of Ms. Thompson. I am Jim Martin, and I am the chair of the commission. Our attorney, Gail Ashworth, is here, seated at council table just ahead of me. The purpose of this meeting is to consider the merits of complaints that were filed with the City of Franklin alleging that Alderman Gabriel Hanson has violated the City of Franklin's ethics code when she sent an email to Mr. Doug Crulin and the board of the Nashville Airport Authority on June the 5th of 2023. On June the 27th of 2023, the commission considered the complaints and found that there was a colorable claim that sections 1-805, 807, and 808 of the Ethics Code were violated, and set the matter for hearing today to hear from the complainants and also to hear from Ms. Hanson and, in addition, members of the public. If we have members of the public that want to address the commission, I would ask that you sign up. Right now, I only have 4 individuals that want to address the commission. The order that we will consider is, first we'll hear from the complainants, and there are 7 of them potentially. Then we will hear from Ms. Hanson or her lawyer, either one, and then we'll hear from members of the public. But I need to know how many folks want to address us so that I'll be able to know what time limitation, if any, we should be placing on the comments from the public members. The commission afforded Ms. Hanson an opportunity to file an answer to the complaints, and she did. On July the 13th of 2023, the commission received Ms. Hanson's answer through her lawyer, Mr. Daniel Horowitz, and he is seated to my left over here, as I understand. Good to see you this afternoon. Has the answer been filed as part of our record? I'm informed it has. So our record now consists of the complaints as well as the answer and the minutes from the June 27th proceedings. Is that correct? All right, thank you. The persons who address the commission are respectfully requested to limit your statements and comments to the issues that are here to be decided by the commission, which are the facts and matters contained in Ms. Hanson's email of June the 5th, 2023, and the provisions that are set forth in the Franklin Municipal Code on ethics. We do not want personalities to play into this, or comments about personalities and things of that nature, unrelated matters that have nothing to do with the responsibilities of the commission. We do have a public meeting code of conduct that I was furnished, and I read it and I thought it was well done, and I'll share it with you. The City of Franklin has this code of conduct, and it says that the policy is to focus on the subject matter, never the person. We are to follow the following rules: that comments will be directed through the chairperson. Time limits may be established. No person will approach the board or commission without permission of the chairperson. The chairperson can stop comments after time has expired, or if the commenter violates public meeting guidelines and rules of decorum, and the chairperson can remove a commenter from the meeting if violation occurs. And those are well-written rules that I thought were worth sharing with everyone in the room today, and I expect that they will be followed. The bylaws of the commission specify that at the beginning we will have a brief explanation of why we're here, and I've done that. We do have the authority to place time limits on comments, and right now I only have 4 requests for public comment. So right now I would ask that any presenter be reasonable in time. Otherwise, I don't see any reason to put time limits at this point on it. When you do speak to the commission, if you would, state your name so that we have in our record who you are, and then address the comments that you want to share with us to me. I have been handed a paper that, this is from Kate Oser, and it's dated July the 27th. And she submits a statement that she hopes to be considered. She is one of the complainants, as I understand it, and is Ms. Oser here today? She is not. Okay. The complaints need to be presented in person. And so if Ms. Oser is unable to be with us, we will not consider her complaint. Do any members of the commission have anything you want to add to the remarks that I have made at this point? Ms. Wilson? No. Ms. Thompson? No. Mr. Sharber?
Done well, Mr. Chairman.
All right, very good. Then let us at this time hear from Emily Jenkins.
Commissioner, if I may, I have two preliminary motions that I would like the commission to consider before we open the hearing.
Sure, and if you don't mind, I'm hard of hearing, so pull that mic close to you if you don't mind.
Yes, sir.
Is it live?
Can you hear me?
I'm not sure it's live. Okay.
I'll start over.
And you're Mr. Horowitz?
Yes.
All right, very well, Mr. Horowitz.
I have two preliminary motions that I would like the commission to consider before the hearing opens. I've handed copies to the commission's counsel. The first is the respondent's motion to dismiss these complaints. That would be based on the May 17th, 2023 amended bylaws and procedures, section 5.3 provides that any complaint shall be based on personal knowledge, set forth such facts as would be admissible in evidence, and shall show affirmatively that the complainant is competent to testify to the matters stated therein. All documents referred to in the complaint shall be attached to the complaint. Commissioners, none of the 7 complaints asserted against Alderman Hansen satisfies these requirements. No complaint is or purports to be based on any personal knowledge. No complaint is sworn or otherwise verified in a manner that would render the facts asserted in them admissible in evidence. No complainant personally purports to be able to authenticate any exhibit in their complaints. For those reasons, they all fail to comply with the mandatory requirements of section 5.3, and they should all be dismissed.
And you're reading from our bylaws, what section?
5.3.
Roman numeral 5, subparagraph 3.
Yes, Commissioner.
So do we need to give you a minute to work on our sound?
Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair,
Yes.
the ethics hearing procedures does not contemplate such motions,
All right.
preliminary
Let me see
motions.
let me test your mic again. Let me see if you're up.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can the folks in the audience hear him now? Very good.
Let me finish the motion. I'd like the commission to vote on it, even if to deny it, so that we can
That's-
preserve this for the record.
And that's fine. Go ahead.
The second is substantive. The complaints fail to state a cognizable ethics violation as a matter of law. The reasons were set forth in the answer that we filed. I'd like those reasons incorporated. To summarize, the United States Supreme Court has held repeatedly and without ambiguity the manifest function of the First Amendment in a representative government requires that legislators be given the widest latitude to express their views on issues of policy. That includes expressing statements on behalf of their constituents and advocating for how public expenditures should be made, rescinded, redirected, how public money should be spent is a quintessential legislative function. All of these complaints assert that the alderman was not permitted to express a point of view on behalf of her constituents regarding how public expenditures should be made. As a result, they all fail to state an ethics violation as a matter of law. Ms. Ashworth, if you don't mind, I'd like to make the motion just a part of the record.
That's fine. It'll be marked as part of our record. While our bylaws don't contemplate pre-hearing motions, as we have been advised by counsel, when I read the response from Ms. Hanson on July the 13th of 2023, she does not deny sending the email in question. She doesn't contest any of the content contained in the email. The focus of the commission is to examine the content in light of the provisions of the Franklin Municipal Code ethics section and determine whether, in fact, there's been a violation. So the court, or I started to say the court, I'm not the court anymore. The commission chair finds that the motion dismissed should be denied, both because there's no procedure for it and also because of the substance. The constitutional argument that Mr. Horowitz has advanced is contained in the answer, and so it'll be part of what is considered today. Thank you.
Thank you. The second motion, Commissioner, is a motion for leave to cross-examine the complainants and witnesses here. The commission's rules do not generally provide for it.
Right.
I would insist on the right to do so as a matter of due process for the reasons stated in the written motion. And for that reason, I would request leave.
Well, yeah, our bylaws provide cross-examination of a party by another party shall generally not be permitted. All such comments shall be addressed to the commission. Mr. Horowitz, what is the reason why your client would wish to cross-examine anyone that's presenting to the commission?
It's a matter of due process, Commissioner.
You're going to have to speak up. I apologize.
It is a matter of due process.
Due process?
Yes.
Okay. Ms. Ashworth, what is your thought on that?
I think absent exceptional circumstances, you should follow the bylaws, and unless there's a compelling need for cross-examination of the complainants, at this time, I would not advise granting such a motion.
We'll take the motion under advisement. If there's something you can't establish through your own proof, then I'd reconsider. But generally, this is not a court, and we do have members of the public here that want to present, and cross-examination might chill that, and I'm not interested in having that chilled. Anything further as a preliminary matter?
I'd just like to make the second motion part of the record as well, please.
All right. Very good. Any other preliminary matter, Mr. Horowitz?
Not at this time.
Very good. With that, then, the chair is ready to move into the substance of the complaints. Are the other commission members ready as well? Okay, very
Yes.
good. Is Ms. Emily Jenkins present? So, Ms. Jenkins, give me just 1 minute, if you would, to get my papers organized. Very good. And you are Ms. Emily Jenkins, is that correct? Very good. The floor is yours.
Okay. I'm Emily Jenkins, a resident of Franklin. I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak, as well as your willingness to serve in this crucial oversight role for ensuring ethical conduct of our elected officials. After reading the response from Ms. Hanson to the complaint, in which she threatened to sue both the city as well as the members of this commission individually, I think it's important that we preserve an accurate record of this proceeding as well as her response. Accordingly, as provided in the operating rules of this commission, I would like to request to be placed under oath for my presentation as well as for the statement of my witness.
Mr. Horwitz, any objection?
No.
Do we have anybody that can administer an oath? Our court reporter? Very well, if you'll raise your right hand.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm your testimony will be the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. Thank you. This complaint arises from an email that Alderman Hanson sent to the Metropolitan Nashville Airport Authority, in which she made a demand on behalf of the City of Franklin in her role as alderman. She made slanderous statements about the Franklin Justice and Equity Coalition and attempted to interfere with the contract between the FJEC and the airport, demanding funding to the nonprofit of her choice. Some background to these events is necessary. We are blessed in Franklin to have two organizations advancing the cause of the African American population here. Their missions are different, but not in opposition to one another. The African American Heritage Society's mission is to collect, preserve, and interpret artifacts from African American history. Contrary to Ms. Hanson's derogatory and defamatory characterization of the organization, the Franklin Justice and Equity Coalition's mission is to ensure justice in Franklin across the pillars of education, law enforcement, housing, business, and mentoring. The FJEC has hosted prayer vigils, college fairs for minority students, school supply giveaways, worship services, given scholarships to minority students, and been blessed to bring a Juneteenth event to downtown Franklin for multiple years. I would challenge Ms. Hanson to present a scintilla of evidence that the faith leaders and community servants doing the work of FJEC have advanced a radical social agenda, as she claimed. If praying and lifting people up struggling in the community is radical, then I'm as radical as they come, and I hope we all are. Before getting into the email that's the crux of the issue, I have provided a copy of the public records request that I sent the city, in which I requested public documents relevant to Ms. Hanson's ethical breach. You will see in the packet that I provided a copy of an email that Angie Johnson with the city sent to Ms. Hanson, in which she instructed Ms. Hanson that because she used her personal email for conducting business as an alderman, she would need to produce any responsive documents from her personal email and text message accounts. Ms. Hanson has refused to produce any responsive documents. As a result, I filed a request for assistance with the State Open Records Council, which should also be in your packet. On July 14th, 2023, the Office of Open Records Council contacted me by phone and confirmed that Ms. Hanson is in violation of open records law and stated that they would contact her to inform her of her duty to produce documents. Nonetheless, Ms. Hanson has refused to produce anything from her personal accounts, even when she's using them to purportedly conduct public business on behalf of the city and utilizing her city title. I would like to state that I have a standing objection to anything being produced in her defense that was responsive to the public records request, but she refused to provide in response to a legitimate request. The events at issue began on June 4th, 2023, when Ms. Hanson sent a text message to Alma McElmore, the head of the African American Heritage Society. A copy of that text exchange is provided in your packet. In the text, she stated, "I am about to make a huge financial ask for you and want your permission. A major group in Nashville needs to send you a large check." I would like you to note that although Ms. Hanson has characterized her letter as representing constituent concerns about taxpayer funds, when she texted Ms. McElmore, she did not reference any constituent complaints or taxpayer funds. She just said that she was making a demand for money. Ms. Hanson sent the email to the airport authority in which she demanded that they take funds from the FJEC and or give the same amount to the African American Heritage Society. She threatened that if they did not comply, she would unleash a public campaign against the board and the members individually. In regards to the email Ms. Hanson sent, I believe there are at least two clear violations of the City of Franklin ethics policy. Section 1-805 of the code governs acceptance of gifts and honoraria and states, except as provided in this section, no officials or employees, either for themselves or for their immediate family or any other person, may knowingly solicit, receive benefit from, accept, or agree to accept any gratuity, gift, honoraria, loan, favor, promise, or thing of value for themselves, any other person, or any member of the immediate family of such official. Hanson's email is a direct solicitation of funds for the African American Heritage Society. In her text to Ms. McElmore, she described her plan to solicit a large donation before she sent the email, and it's clear that her email itself had three goals. First, to defame the reputation of FJEC with a major donor. Second, to interfere with the contract between FJEC and the airport. And most importantly, to demand money for her preferred nonprofit under threat of retaliation against the airport authority if they refused her demand as an elected official representing the city of Franklin. It's clear that her letter was soliciting a donation to an organization she is closely enough related to that she even requested their permission before making the ask, and that she claimed her solicitation was made in her official capacity as an alderman. In her response to the complaint, Ms. Hansen's counsel noted that her scheme does not appear to have succeeded, a fact which is irrelevant because the Ethics Code does not require that she be successful in her solicitation scheme. It merely prohibits the act of soliciting funds. The second violation pertains to Section 108 of the Ethics Policy, which governs use of position or authority, and states, officials or employees may not use or attempt to use their position to secure any privilege or exemption for themselves or others that is not authorized by the charter, general law, ordinance, or policy of the municipality. Ms. Hansen sent this letter and specifically stated that she was demanding a donation, quote, as an elected official, and she signed it with her official title of alderman. There is no charter, general law, ordinance, or policy of the city of Franklin to demand donations to local nonprofits under threat of a public smear campaign if the respondent were to refuse. Threatening public harm to the reputations of volunteer board members of an organization in another jurisdiction is not generally what one thinks of as legitimate action on behalf of the city. It is difficult to imagine a more clear case of using your position to secure a privilege or exemption than shaking down an organization for money while threatening them with public retaliation. Before I address Ms. Hansen's response to the complaint, I would like to call Pastor Walter Simmons from the FJEC to come forward, be sworn in, and to address the commission about the impact Ms. Hansen's actions had on the work and reputation of the FJEC.
If you would state your name for us, sir.
Walter Simmons.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm your testimony will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon. It's a bad day to have to be here under these circumstances, but one that we have to deal with. What is the harm that has happened to the email that was sent to BNA on behalf of the African American Heritage Society by Alderman Hansen? Speaking on behalf of the Franklin Justice and Equity Coalition, we want to make clear that this is just not an overstepping. This is a part of a pattern from Alderman Hansen. In 2022, when we were here for the non-consent vote, Alderman Hansen pulled Juneteenth Festival off of the consent agenda and then made or demand that there be a committee picked by the city of Franklin that will take over Juneteenth, that the Franklin Justice and Equity Coalition had led for 2 years. In her demand, a sitting board member of the African American Heritage Society did second that motion. Thankfully, the city of Franklin did not see that was right, and we continued to do Juneteenth as we've done it. Conversely, in 2023, during a work session meeting, Alderman Hansen then openly asked for our sponsors to not only the city administrator, our permit director, who was Monique McCullough, and Tara Blue, who was our coordinator for the Juneteenth event. She did that in April and then wrote that same email to BNA later. This is clearly an issue that must be dealt with. When we put in a permit for Juneteenth, we come in doing exactly what the city of Franklin have asked us to do. And if we have to come in under this kind of banter and mistrust with sitting aldermen, it creates an issue for us to even want to come into the city of Franklin. Because Alderman Hansen said that we wanted to defund the police, which is untrue. If you can ask any alderman here, after White Lives Matter showed up to Juneteenth of 2022, I personally wrote a letter on behalf of my board to Chief Faulkner, thanking her for how her police responded to White Lives Matter at Juneteenth. That letter ended up in every hand of every City of Franklin employee because we thanked Chief Faulkner. Conversely, in 2023, when Tyree Nichols was murdered, Chief Faulkner emailed me and asked me, what can we do? And if you search the archives of the Wilson Herald, you'll see that myself, Chief Faulkner, Dr. Chris Williamson, who's an advisor to the FJEC, and Anthony Pickett, who is also an advisor, met with Chief Faulkner not to defund the police, but to talk about how we can create an opportunity for community and police to be together, especially finding affordable living spaces for police officers to be able to afford to live in Franklin, but not to defund the police. When she said we wanted to talk about reparations, no, we want to talk about equity. There's not an African-American business in downtown, and we want to make sure that all people have an opportunity to be a part of this. Alderman Hanson said we came about behind George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, and Breonna Taylor. We did, but no, we really came about. I live in Fieldstone Farms, and I was out walking one day, and I was racially profiled at least 4 to 5 times a week just walking in my neighborhood attempting to lose weight. On this day, I happened to be on my phone recording the interaction between myself and the police, and I was reached out to say, what could we do? We had a prayer vigil, and we then moved on with the Franklin Justice and Equity Coalition. I serve as the president and founder. We believe in justice and equity, but what we don't believe in is allowing people who are not on our board and sitting officials, city officials, to write in that capacity when the African American Heritage Society has capable members on their board to be able to ask for finances. For us, it is a liability to continue to do Juneteenth in downtown Franklin if Alderman Hanson is on this board, because Alderman Hanson has a vote. In 2022, when she pulled it, Alderman Hanson voted yes for the Juneteenth Festival. In 2023, when she pulled it and did what she asked the question, she still voted yes. Why would Alderman Hanson have these things written privately but publicly vote for that event? 2 years that she's been a sitting alderman, when she said, well, Black Lives Matter, we're defunding the police, we're creating a division in our community, Alderman Hanson even voted yes. And I must say that 2 years, we've had a unanimous vote of yes for Juneteenth in downtown Franklin because we are here to engage, educate, and empower our community. Alderman Hanson is pitting 2 organizations involved in supporting African-American presence here in Franklin and each other's. We know for a fact that Alderman Hanson this isn't the first time she has sent troubling emails to our sponsors. In her email to BNA, she actually sent a picture to BNA of our sponsors at the time. My question would be today, why did she only send that to BNA? Mars Pet Care has been one of our title sponsors for 2 years. The Urban League of Middle Tennessee was our title sponsor. They gave us more money than anyone. She did not send a message to the Urban League. She did not send a message to Mars Pet Care. Why BNA? Openly, I've had to meet with sponsors who walked away from our Juneteenth festival because of Alderman Hanson's email. And I just want to say I don't appreciate Alderman Hanson being the savior for the African-American community. I think we're intelligent enough to handle ourselves. I think we're gifted enough to handle our own Juneteenth festivities. I think we're gifted enough to be able to handle what we need to do and best represent our city without a sitting city official coming, because no other city official has done it. In retrospect, when one of our sponsors decided in 2023 they would not support us, I have a witness who can tell you that I told them, if you would not support us, then you need to go give your money to the African American Heritage Society, because you should be supporting Juneteenth. As I noted, she already sent a letter asking for our sponsors. Alderman Hanson has a history of acting in favor of the African American Heritage Society against their Franklin Justice and Equity Coalition. She clearly has a conflict of interest and has misused her office by trying to act in favor of one organization over the other. She has on multiple occasions met in private with the leadership of the African American Heritage Society to discuss the Juneteenth Festival and the Franklin Justice and Equity Coalition. Alderman Hanson's letter upset a major sponsor of Juneteenth and caused serious damage to the relationship between the Franklin Justice and Equity Coalition and the airport. Her actions have been widely covered nationally by her comments. It is clear that she has a pattern of specific malice against the FJC and would not hesitate to harm the organization anytime she has a chance. Alderman Hanson has stated that the city of Franklin has been part of taking away Juneteenth, which is not true. That is not the truth. The city of Franklin has been with us. In 2022, the city of Franklin asked our organization to have one event so we would not stretch our police department. We agreed. In an open agreement, it was agreed that the Franklin Justice and Equity Coalition would lead Juneteenth, and that was later rescinded by the other organization. And even in response to that, I met with the city of Franklin, and I called Ms. Monique Nicola, which she can tell you that I asked, what should we do? Every offer that we made to the other organization was denied by them. So when Alderman Hanson says that we took this and bullied them, that is not the truth. The city of Franklin even reached out to the other organization and asked them, and they denied doing what the city of Franklin offered them. We don't own the space in downtown. As a matter of fact, I even told the city of Franklin, we will move our event and allow the African American Heritage Society to do it in downtown Franklin. I don't think Alderman Hanson should be removed. This is against my board's wishes. I just want to say this in closing. Her constituents voted for her. What she's caused financially, she can't say ethically. What she wrote to BNA was counter to what she does publicly. But what she has caused for the city of Franklin is not my duty on today. My duty is to say that we are defund the police is not true. To say that we are against every other, that is not true. We work with every nonprofit in the city of Franklin to do major events every year, all year. But we won't be silenced by one day. Our Juneteenth is only one day of celebration that we put into a month, but we will not stop doing Juneteenth because of Alderman Hanson. I think Alderman Hanson should remain an alderman. Because her constituents voted for her. If this ethics committee finds that she has done something in malice, then she should be put off. It should not be under the public discourse of what she's done. If she should have been put off, she should have been put off the last time. But this time, you all know who the alderman is. And it's your responsibility, and you have a great responsibility today to figure it out. Alderman Hanson has caused our sponsors to walk away, but she has not caused our fight to stop. Is it a fight? No, it's not. It is only us doing what God has called us to do, and that is to engage, educate, and empower. It is up to you to make that decision. Last, thank you for even considering it. To even have us here to speak openly about it. Because this is an important time in our city where two organizations are trying to empower not only African Americans, but empower our entire community, that we have to stand here today and have this discussion. Although important, it is not the most important thing. And I think we could be doing a lot better things than here on today. Alderman Hanson's words are hurtful, bothersome, and it should not have been done. But this ethics committee, you have a hard chance and a hard time today as you listen to your community. Thank you so much.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question, Mr. Simmons. Would you like me to do that now or later?
No, you go ahead.
Mr. Simmons?
Yes, sir.
Is the Justice Equity Coalition a nonprofit corporation?
Yes, sir. We are a nonprofit organization recognized by the Internal Revenue Service by Code 5013C.
Thank you.
Ms. Jenkins?
Thank you, Pastor Simmons. Before I conclude, while I know that in addition to the city attorneys, the city has engaged outside counsel to advise you of the legal issues at stake, I would like to briefly address a few things from the lengthy response provided by Ms. Hanson's counsel to the complaints. First, I want to note for the public record and the benefit of all citizens watching that in response to legitimate public oversight of her actions as alderman, Ms. Hanson has continued her pattern of believing that her position is above reproach. She has refused to produce public documents of correspondence she sent or received in her official capacity from her personal accounts. Frankly, that should be alarming to anyone in city leadership because the city has no idea what else she may have done, money she may have secured, or who else she may have threatened while claiming to act in her official capacity. It's more than a little suspicious that when she took the action in question that she claims was legitimate advocacy as an alderman, she chose not to do it from her official account that's subject to immediate oversight by the city. Instead, she used her personal email account for her what she claims to be legitimate advocacy. The commission has to ask why she felt the need to hide her actions. When you, as the Ethics Commission, conducted your initial review and determined that there were legitimate questions regarding whether her behavior constituted an ethics breach, you scheduled this hearing. Ms. Hanson's response to having the activities she's conducting in secret from her personal accounts questioned is that by and through her counsel, she has demanded that this hearing be canceled, has threatened to sue the city, and has threatened to sue every member of the Ethics Committee individually. I appreciate that, like the Airport Authority, the Ethics Committee has refused to be cowed by threats of retaliation from Ms. Hanson. For a public official to abuse her authority and threaten litigation against the very city she is supposed to be serving, as well as to make personal threats against volunteers performing their duties of ethical oversight, is beyond the pale. Second, in her response, Ms. Hanson repeatedly claims that her actions were, quote, expressing her constituent concerns about an expenditure of public funds. What is notable is that nowhere in the public records produced was there a single email or text message to or from Ms. Hanson and a constituent regarding concerns about the airport, Juneteenth, or FJEC. This leads to only three possible conclusions. The first is either that over the course of one weekend, Ms. Hanson was contacted in person by 20 different constituents that she never followed up with in writing. Second, that she was contacted in writing and is refusing to comply with her obligations as a public official to produce those documents. Or third, that she has fabricated these constituents, and this concern with the FJC is hers alone. Additionally, as to her claims that this is legitimate oversight of tax dollars, on June 8th, the airport board sent an email in which they informed Ms. Hanson that they received no tax dollars and the donation was not from taxpayer funds. A copy of that email exchange is in your packet. You will also find a follow-up email in which the airport authority stated, quote, now that you have understanding that no tax dollars are used by the airport authority for any charitable contributions, I hope that you will correct that false premise in the future. Unfortunately, their hope was in vain, as not only has Ms. Hanson not corrected that false premise, through her counsel, she has submitted a response to the ethics complaint that repeats that false allegation that these were taxpayer funds over a dozen times. Ms. Hanson's response is focused on her First Amendment rights to express concerns of how taxpayer funds are being used. No one is claiming that she doesn't have a right to express her opinion. However, the First Amendment is not a defense to clear violations of ethics provisions prohibiting utilizing official capacity to wrongfully secure financial gain for herself or others. Taken at face value, Ms. Hanson's defense is that as long as her wrongdoing aligns with her constituents' belief system, these imaginary constituents I discussed earlier, she's free to abuse her position for any purpose she deems to advance that cause. I do have to note that it's interesting that Ms. Hanson has developed an affinity for the First Amendment when she, as an elected official, has violated a plethora of case law that states that elected officials cannot block their constituents from interacting on social media. It would seem that her views of the First Amendment are that it is a shield built just for her. Beyond her false claim that the First Amendment gives her carte blanche to shake down organizations for money in her official capacity, she has also made claims that the petition clause of the federal and Tennessee Constitution provide protection for her advocacy as a citizen, quote, instructing their representative. Ms. Hansen is playing fast and loose with her identity in her response, switching from it being part of her legitimate advocacy as a representative to it being a petition she as a citizen is making to instruct her representative. This argument fails for multiple reasons, most notably that the airport board is a volunteer oversight board and not a representative form of government, as well as the fact that the only government entity it bears any connection to is that of Metropolitan Nashville. Ms. Hansen may be confused as to where we reside, but the city of Franklin does not, in fact, fall under the control of the Metropolitan Nashville government. Her response has thrown many things at the wall to justify her actions, but none of them stick. I want to thank you again for your service to our community and for giving me the opportunity to present the reasons why Ms. Hansen's abuse of her powers as an alderman cannot be allowed to go unchecked. Allowing an official to use their position to threaten public retaliation against a nonprofit board, both as a board and individually, if they do not give, as she described it, a big check to her pet charity, is simply not a choice this commission can make. The FJEC deserves better. The African American Heritage Society deserves better. The Airport Authority deserved better. And all of the citizens of Franklin deserve better. I believe, contrary to Pastor Simmons, that this commission has no appropriate action to choose other than her removal from office. She is a danger to our nonprofits, the reputation of the city and the community, and any lesser response would continue to place our city at substantial risk of reputational damage at her hands. Thank you.
The packet you've handed us will be made part of the record.
Let me interpose an objection to that.
I'm sorry.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question for Ms.
Yeah.
Jenkins.
Fine. Well, hold on just a minute. Mr. Horwitz.
I object to the packet being included in the record. None of these documents are authenticated. Nobody with personal knowledge has attempted to authenticate them. They were not part of the complaint. They cannot be admitted.
If I may respond, all of the documents were provided pursuant to a public records request from the city of Franklin.
The witness has no personal knowledge of the authenticity of these documents.
Very well. Your objection's noted. They'll still be made part of the record. Mr. Sharber?
Yes.
I have two questions, Ms. Jenkins. First of all, very simply, are you a resident of the city of Franklin?
I am, yes.
Thank you. Secondly, the sections of our ethics code that I heard you quote, I only heard you quote section 1-805. Is that the only section that you're laying claim was a violation of the ethics?
Section 108 and 1-808 and
805.
1-805, both.
Which ones?
805,
Uh-huh.
which governs gifts and honoraria, and I believe it's 808, which governs use of your position or
Of
authority.
authority. Okay, thank you
Correct.
very much.
I had originally stated a claim under the misuse of public equipment.
807.
Yes, when we thought that it was sent from her public account, but we didn't know that she was using her private account to hide the
But you're only
emails.
laying claim today to 805 and 808.
Correct.
Thank you.
Any questions, Ms. Wilson? Ms. Thompson?
Mr.
you.
Commissioner, one thing I just want to interpose for the record. Had I been able to cross-examine the witness here, I would have done so based on a Facebook post that the witness made about a week and a half ago, which simply states, "If you live in Franklin and don't know why this ethically challenged woman would be a disaster for our government, I'm available for a dissertation anytime. I may not agree with every decision he has made, but Ken Moore has done a great job of steady, level-headed, nonpartisan leadership of our city. I will gladly support his reelection. When someone is so far right that they think the city of Franklin is woke, that is terrifying. Also, not for nothing, the Franklin we know is coming from someone who moved here recently from Chicago and whose husband was still registered to vote in Chicago and running for office up there while she was trying to get elected here. Purpose of this examination would be to show that this complainant has political opposition to the respondent that is completely unrelated to this ethics complaint that has been the subject of this hearing, and that opposition is fair.
Mr.
fair
Horwitz, that's the very issue that the court addressed, or that I addressed earlier. I want to keep the comments and the responses focused on the email that was sent by your client to the airport authority and the provisions of the ethics code. This post that you've referenced and allegedly made by Ms. Jenkins goes far beyond that, and that's what I do not want to allow this proceeding to delve into.
And that's fair, Your Honor, or Commissioner.
That's all right.
I need to get this into the record, especially if this commission is relying on,
And you've done it, and it's there, but I really want to focus precisely on the June 5th email and the terms and provisions of our ethics code.
which is fair. But to the extent that this commission is going to rely on her claims of authenticity regarding emails that she was not privy to, credibility matters here. I just want to get the objection in because, well, for all the reasons I need to.
And I understand your position. Thank you.
If I may, I know that I don't
No.
represent the city. I just wanted to remind the commission that I did also place an objection to Ms. Hanson bringing in evidence related to any documents she should have produced from my records request, which would have authenticated the documents.
Thank you. All right. So next I have Peggy Kingsbury.
Thank you. I have no formal legal training.
Neither do I.
We're in school today, apparently, both of us. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. I'm Peggy Kingsbury. I do live in the city of Franklin, also in Fieldstone Farms. This first section of my complaint focuses on Section 1-805 of the Ethics Policy. Specifically, this section states, and I'm paraphrasing, you have a copy of the policy, no official may knowingly solicit any gift for any other person. Alderman Hanson clearly solicited a gift for the African American Heritage Society. My complaint also holds that Alderman Hanson violated Section 1-808, which deals with use of position or authority, and states in part that officials may not use their position to secure any privilege that is not authorized by the Charter. Alderman Hanson did attempt to use her position, clearly evidenced by her letter, which notes her position of alderman on more than one occasion, to secure the privilege of a donation for her favored charity. I also had included in my original complaint 1-807, but as Ms. Jenkins stated, we did not know where the original email had come from, so I am removing that part of my complaint. With all this said, I would like to take a minute to address Attorney Horowitz's response to the complaints. Again, I have no formal legal training. Attorney Horowitz bases much of his response on what he calls Hanson's advocacy for the expenditure of taxpayer funds. As noted in the response to Hanson's letter from Doug Crulin, President and CEO of Metropolitan Nashville Airport Authority, BNA, which I have provided for you, quoting, BNA receives no local tax dollars. This charitable donation is not linked to your taxpayer money in any way, unquote. Of note is that Mr. Crulin is also chair of Williamson, Inc., our version of the Chamber of Commerce, and thus his knowledge of local finances is notable. Also notable is that Attorney Horowitz claims in the footnote on page 5 of his response that, and I quote, nobody whom the complainants claim was extorted has even complained, unquote. I assert that the letter from Mr. Crulin is in fact a complaint. Attorney Horowitz is asserting that Alderman Hanson feels she is the gatekeeper for all tax money spent anywhere by anyone, and thus she is allowed to make financial demands of private entities. He asserts that her letter to BNA was due to her advocacy for her constituents. His response includes the words advocate and taxpayer money on at least 16 occasions, and seems to be one of the bases for her defense. Advocating for your constituents is a good thing. Violating ethics policies to do so is not. I also note many references to Hanson's First Amendment rights. These are the same rights Hanson's letter refers to when she writes, quote, so that the public will know that the Board of BNA is financially supporting and in agreement with radical social justice agendas in towns where they literally should have no voice, unquote. The poor sentence structure makes it unclear whether those she feels should have no voice are BNA or FJEC. Either way, Alderman Hanson seemingly has no problem limiting the freedom of speech of those with whom she disagrees. I work for a large organization, and I have clients whom I advocate for often. However, our ethics policies do not allow me to break company rules to do so. For example, I cannot disclose company confidential information in my quest to advocate for my customers. I cannot tell a business to provide something for my customer, or else I will retaliate. These are violations of my company ethic rules. Franklin's Code of Ethics is designed to regulate behavior, actions of city employees and elected officials. Sometimes that behavior is undertaken in written or oral communication. Had Alderman Hanson sat in on a podcast, which she likes to do, and disparaged B&A for their donation or posted on social media her displeasure, these words would have been protected under the First Amendment. Had she written to Mr. Krulin or called him on the phone and discussed her displeasure with the donation, this too would have been permitted under the First Amendment. However, when she made demands of a private party, an entity, B&A, she undertook the actions our Code of Ethics is designed to prohibit, the action of using her position to solicit a gift for another person. In layman's terms, Hanson told B&A to pay up or else. This threatening behavior is exactly what the code is designed to prohibit. Again, I want to thank you for your attention and time to this matter and for fostering the exercise of democracy in the city of Franklin.
This paper from Doug Krulin to Gabriel Hanson is to be admitted.
Yes.
Let it be marked.
Let me interpose an objection. It is not authenticated. Witness does not have personal knowledge of it.
Very well.
She wrote it.
No, that's all right.
Okay, that's personal knowledge.
That's fine. It's
Secondly,
part of our record, and I don't want dialogue between you and Mr. Horowitz.
let me move to strike the testimony as unsworn.
Okay. All right, let's see. Next, we would have Damon Rogers.
Was that
Damon
motion?
Rogers here? No. Then we'll strike her complaint. Janet Schaus.
I'm here, but I don't wish to speak. I think the points I made have been clearly illuminated by the two previous speakers, so I don't feel a need to add my voice.
Then your complaint will be stricken. Kate Oser, we've addressed that earlier. Ms. Oser is not here. Her complaint will be stricken. Rod Berger,
Commissioner, may I just clarify, stricken, I'm moving to dismiss the complaints by Kate Osher and anyone
we're
else.
not considering it. That's what
Okay.
that's what I mean by.
But that, not that they will be reconsidered at another time. They are gone.
Well, there's a time limitation in our code on when we can hear complaints.
But the hearing is today.
That's right, and we're right up against the time limitation.
So I will move to dismiss them to the extent I need
Well, I'm
to.
striking them. Rod Berger here. Okay, Mr. Berger's complaint is stricken.
Move to dismiss that.
And Mr. Joe Jensen, is he here? Mr. Jensen.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission, Council.
Give me a minute, if you would, Mr. Jensen. Let me get some papers organized. Thank you. The floor is yours.
I'm Joe Jensen. I both live in Franklin and work in Franklin. I'd like to begin clarifying 3 points that were included in Ms. Hanson's response to the complaints that were filed. First, it's asserted that each of the 7 people that have filed the complaints are people who have, quote, repeatedly disclosed their political opposition to Ms. Hanson regarding unrelated matters. For the record, I have never done that. She also asserts in her response that each of the 7 complaints at issue literally claims that it was illegal for Ms. Hanson to send the email that she sent. I've read the 7 complaints. I don't believe anybody, and I know that I did not assert it was illegal for her to send that complaint or send that email. Rather, it's an ethical violation. Similarly, in what I do as a profession, if I don't communicate with a client in a timely manner, that's an ethical violation. It's not an illegal illegal activity. And so we're not asserting, and I'm not asserting an illegal activity on her part. I think if we were, we might be in front of a different tribunal today. The other point is, it is alleged that all of the people that have filed complaints are admitted political opponents who have initiated these complaints. I'm not her political opponent. I have no political aspirations. I'm not running for office. I might run from office, but I'm not running for office. Section 1-8082 is the only section that I am addressing. That is, the section
Could you
provides.
repeat that again?
Yes, sir.
One-
1-808, subpart 2.
Thank you.
That section of the code provides in pertinent part, officials or employees may not use or attempt to use their position to secure any privilege or exemption for themselves or others that is not authorized by the charter, general law, ordinance, or policy of the municipality. In the email which Ms. Hanson has sent, she identifies herself as, quote, as an elected official. So clearly she is an official under 8082. Her email says, I am respectfully requesting that you either withdraw the financial support and public endorsement of FJEC or write a check to the African American Heritage Society and allow them to advertise you as a sponsor, providing the same financial level of funding that you did to the Franklin Justice and Equity Coalition. She is attempting to secure a privilege, a financial contribution for the African American Heritage Society, or so it appears. What I don't really know is she asking the airport authority to withdraw their financial support of one, or is she asking them to make a contribution to the other? But her intent doesn't matter. What matters is, did the email she sent violate this code? She's an official. She used it in an attempt. She used her official capacity in an attempt to secure a privilege or exemption for an other. And I submit to you that the African American Heritage Society would fit the definition of an other. Similarly, she does not in her email include, and I think it's very clear, but her email does not make any reference or any suggestion that the relief she is requesting has been authorized by the charter, general law, ordinance, or policy of the municipality, i.e. the city of Franklin. So the content of her message fits squarely within 8082, and therefore it is, in and of itself, it is a violation of the Ethics Code. Section 2-308 of the Ethics Code, which is also referenced in this Commission's amended bylaws and procedures, says the Ethics Commission shall have the following duties and powers. To receive and hear complaints of violations of standards required by the Ethics Code. 3, to make investigations as it deems necessary to determine whether any person has violated the Ethics Code, and only after the affirmative vote of a majority of the Ethics Commission has voted to conduct the investigation. And 4, to take such action as provided in the Ethics Code as deemed appropriate because of any violation of the code. The City of Franklin Code has been adopted by a legislative body, i.e. the Board of Mayor and Aldermen, and it remains the code of Franklin until the board either amends it or revokes it, or until an appellate body reviews it and deems it as unenforceable or unconstitutional. The Ethics Commission, this commission, unlike an appellate court, is empowered with determining whether a violation has occurred, not whether any provision of the Ethics Code is unenforceable or unconstitutional. I want you to all remember your charge. Did an ethics violation occur? The response that has been filed by Ms. Hanson argues repeatedly that the content of her email is constitutionally protected free speech, that the City of Franklin is unable to restrict an elected official an elected official's free speech rights, and that the attempt to find and your potential finding of an ethics violation by her will result in a lawsuit against the City of Franklin and/or any of you individually. But I again remind you, your charge is limited to determine whether she violated the ethics code. Code Section 2-310 provides in pertinent part, and this is subpart 7, if the Ethics Commission determines that specific substantiated evidence from a credible source exists to support a reasonable belief that there has been a violation of the ethics code, then it shall render a written decision stating facts supporting that finding, conclusions of law, and censure as appropriate. The email at issue today violated the ethics code. You should make that finding, and you should censure Ms. Hansen as appropriate. It is not my job, as Mr. Simmons and his counsel and Ms. Jenkins commented, it's not up to me to decide what that censure should be. That's your charge. But your first charge is to determine that an ethics code violation occurred, and it clearly did. Thank you. And unless the commission has any questions for me, may I be excused? I need to get someplace.
Mr. Sharber, anything? Ms. Thomas? Ms. Wilson? Thank you.
Thank you.
Those are the complaints that we've had. Ms. Harwich?
Commissioner, I apologize. I don't mean to keep interrupting you. I just need to interpose an objection to strike that testimony for lack of personal knowledge and on the basis that it was not sworn.
Well, I understand your motion. The court the chair denies your motion. The email is undisputed. It's not disputed that she sent the email. Mr. Jensen's focusing on the content of the email and on the provisions of the ethics code. There can be no basis for any complaint about what Mr. Jensen had to say, respectfully. Does Ms. Hansen want to offer remarks on her own, or are you going to represent her?
I will represent her.
Then the podium is yours.
I believe there's a
Excuse me,
public
Mr.
hearing that has to happen first.
Wait, we had a hand go up back there. Come up if you would. And this is Ms. Kingsbury?
Yes, if it is necessary for me to be put under oath, I will go through what I said again.
No, you're not, it's not necessary that you be under oath, and you don't have to go through it again. We have it. Thank you.
We interpose the objection.
I can't hear you.
I just want to note the objection for the record.
You want her under oath? Do you?
I believe her testimony is closed. We have moved to strike it on the basis that it was unsworn. I am permitted to make these objections.
Raise your right hand, please. You solemnly swear or affirm the facts and matters to which you have already testified were accurate to the best of your knowledge.
Yes, I do, so under God.
Thank you. You may have a seat. All right. Mr. Horwitz, the floor is yours.
I believe there's a public hearing first, is there not?
No. I'll hear from the complainant, I'll hear from the respondent, and then I'll open it up for public comment.
I only have 4 exhibits I just want to make part of the record, and then I will simply renew my motion to dismiss. First is the City of Franklin's appropriations to outside agencies program.
It might be better if you work from the podium, if that's okay.
I only have 4 exhibits that I want to make part of the record.
Okay.
The first is the City of Franklin's appropriations to outside agencies program, which concerns available funding for nonprofit agencies from the City of Franklin, from the City of Franklin's website. Just want to make that an exhibit.
And how is that authenticated?
By me.
We'll
I
admit it.
swear, based on personal knowledge, that this is a true and exact copy of the appropriations to outside agencies
Very
program.
well. Let it be marked. And do you have a bench copy by chance for us?
You can have mine.
Would you like to see it before?
Well, I'm going to admit it, but I'd like to see it. Thank you.
And this came from the City of Franklin's website?
Yes, Commissioner.
Thank you.
So in summary, what this document does, as I understand it, explain to the public how you go about applying for nonprofit funding. Is that it?
That's correct.
All right. Does anyone else need to glance at it? Ms. Wilson?
The only two other exhibits are two news
Hold on
articles.
just one minute. Let Ms. Wilson glance at it first. So I'll just put a little one here in the upper right-hand corner.
The next two exhibits are simply two news articles. One titled Metro Sues State for Taking Control of Airport Authority. The other from the Tennessean, Will the Real Metro Nashville Airport Authority Please Stand Up? I will authenticate these personally, and I will also tell the commission the reason why I'm introducing them into the record. The first makes reference to the $29 million from the state and $26 million from the federal government that the airport authority received in 2022. The second contains a statement from Metro's law director referring to the airport authority as an agency and instrumentality of Metro government.
Do any of the members of the commission want to glance at these?
These are news articles about, I'll just say B and A,
The airport authority, yes.
Airport Authority. And the news article says they get state funds, and what else did you say they get?
That it is a government entity.
That it is a government.
Yes, that it's an instrumentality of the metropolitan government.
Okay,
And
I understand that.
also that generally this is a matter of public concern involving a conflict between Nashville and the state.
And that's what both articles say.
The first refers to the funding that it's received from the state and the federal government. The second contains that statement from Metro's legal director referring to it as an instrumentality of Metro government.
Okay.
So the first
Referring to
article-
the airport authority as an
Correct.
instrument.
Yeah, if you'll just mark number 2 in the upper right-hand corner of the first article and put the number 3 in the upper right-hand corner of the second article.
And that's it.
All right, so let me, Ms. Ashworth, let me pass back the first document that was presented and marked. Very well, those 3 papers will be made part of our record,
Thank you, Commissioner.
all right?
This time, we renew the motion to dismiss these complaints.
Very well. It's denied, go ahead.
That's it.
Then beyond the 3 papers that have been marked in your motion, your client would stand on the answer that was filed.
The legal argument and the answer, yes.
Yes, if that's fine. All right, very good. So let's see, I have a note here that Bryant Herbert wishes to address the commission. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. My name is Pastor Brian Herbert. I'm a co-founder of FJC and also vice president. I wanted to start off by introducing myself to Miss Gabrielle Hanson because I don't know her, never met her, never held a conversation. She's never attended my church. But I would just like to say that Alderman Hanson, she's dangerous. And when I say dangerous, I want to explain it this way. On January 6, 2020, then President Trump held a rally, and let's say there was 20,000 people there.
Mr. Herbert, let me stop you. With great respect for what you would like to present, I want to focus the work of the commission on the content of that email of June the 5th and the language of the provisions of the City of Franklin Ethics Code.
I'm getting there.
Well,
Can I have just a little bit of latitude
I'll give
because
you a little latitude, but I don't want too much, okay?
it's just because with me being directly impacted, I have to use this illustration
Then
for
I'll-
you can
I'll-
understand
then
it.
We'll take it only as an illustration, but
Okay.
be brief, okay?
Yeah, I only have a minute and a half. I was almost done.
All right, go ahead.
Now I got to start back open. I'm just messing with you. On January 6, 2020, then President Trump held a rally with 20,000 people. Got them riled up with misleading information, and later on that day, those 20,000 people stormed the Capitol. People who were working were accosted, assaulted, and some even lost their lives because of misleading information. During 2022, Juneteenth, in our downtown celebration, we had, let's say, 10 White Lives Matter show up at Juneteenth celebration downtown, while myself and other city officials were on the stage. Then, an hour later, we had another group of armed militia that came to confront those White Lives Matters people. I intervened. I interceded. I worked with the police that day and gave them all the information, the pictures that I took. I put myself in harm's way. Why or who sent both of the groups, I don't know. Later, I found out that I had private security watching me on detail after these threats were made, unbeknownst to me. Ms. Hanson's email stated she had 20 citizens who are prepared to post publicly about her false claims about the FJC, myself as a radical, divisive organization to be feared. But what if one person actually believed what she had in that email? What if one person believed what she said something about me who she's never met, never had a conversation with, believes it, acts on it, and goes further? As a pastor, I work in this community and other communities, and her words have put a target on my back as if I'm someone to be feared. Her email put me, my colleagues, my family, and many innocent bystanders in danger because all it takes is one. That's why Ms. Hanson is dangerous. In Matthew's, I'm closing. This is my pastoral close right here. In Matthew 7, it says, "Judge not, lest you be judged." So I won't judge her because I don't know her. We never held a conversation. But it also says you'll know them by their fruit. And quite frankly, Alderman Hanson's fruit is dangerous. So whether you keep her, whether you remove her, does not bother me one bit. All I know based upon her comments and her emails, she's a dangerous person. And anyone who works with her should distance themselves. Thank you for your time.
Then I have Ashley Webster.
Hi there, I'm Ashley Webster, and I live in Franklin and have since 1998. And it's already been proven here today that the ethics code was violated. So what I'm going to appeal to you about is the leeway that you have as a body as to whether Ms. Alderman is censured or removed from the board. And I know you said to focus on the behavior, but she is a person, and I have personal knowledge of a lot of these people here in the audience today, and personal knowledge of that email. I saw a direct copy. So I'm speaking from personal experience. A person who follows the ethics code of the office to which they were elected could be said to have integrity. And the definition of integrity is the quality of being honest and having strong moral principles, moral uprightness. And I would posit that Ms. Hansen has not shown integrity in her behavior surrounding this issue. She's not here today. She hasn't apologized. She hasn't admitted that the things she said were untrue. In several other instances that this audience is aware of, I won't go into those details. She's doubled down, she's made demands, and she's made threats. So consider that when you decide whether to censure her or remove her from the board. The freedom of speech does not relieve you of the consequences of your words. It does not relieve a public official from their duty to uphold the policies and codes of the body to which they are elected. She has clearly violated the ethics code. And your action today is especially important because she is running for mayor, but she only filed to run for mayor after she disregarded the requirements to file with the city before beginning fundraising activity and appointing a treasurer. So your action today can actually affect future problems for the city. She's shown no regard for ordinances, laws, or policies, and when called to the carpet on violating them, she doubles down, makes threats, denies, dismisses. Thank you.
And then I have Tara Blue. Are you Ms. Tara Blue?
I am.
You have the floor.
Okay. I am. My name is Tara Ballou, and I need to give you a little history of why I'm here and why it's important for me to speak today. I am one of the organizers of the FJEC Juneteenth celebration for the past 3 years. I'm a board member of FJEC, also co-chair of the Black Business Coalition that falls under the umbrella of the Chamber of Commerce. My job is to make sure that the underserved minority businesses are given the opportunity to be spotlighted every Juneteenth festival and beyond. In 2021, I came before the BOMA work session to answer any questions concerning the Juneteenth festival. There were no questions asked, and during the BOMA meeting, we received a unanimous vote. In 2022, I came before the BOMA work session, and again, there were no questions asked of me. But on the night of the BOMA meeting, Ms. Hansen felt it necessary to suggest that the City of Franklin should select individuals to work together for Juneteenth events, and she had the audacity to give us a history lesson on what Juneteenth means. We felt humiliated and embarrassed, and I personally sent Ms. Hansen an email addressing this issue. No other organization has been forced to work together. We will not and cannot be boxed in. In 2023, during the BOMA work session, Ms. Hansen asked if we were working with another group this year, and she was informed that that was a request, not a requirement. Ms. Hansen then proceeded to ask me who our sponsors were. This question is not typically asked of organizations, but I see why she asked the question. Note, we received another unanimous vote. On June the 5th, 2023, Ms. Hansen emailed Doug Cruling, the CEO of BNA, requesting that they withdraw funds for our Juneteenth festivities. She belittled our organization and gave nothing but negative remarks about FJEC. Ms. Hansen, we're not a radical group. We are a newly founded group that has made great contributions in the city of Franklin and abroad. There is more room for more than one Black non-profit-led group. We provide scholarships for high school students, we assist families with household bills, and in a few weeks, we are partnering with other organizations to hold a back-to-school bash where we will offer free haircuts, food, school supplies, and gift cards. You may have a group that you would like to support, but you do not have the right to tell any organization who they can and cannot financially support. Doug Cruling, a dear colleague of mine, as we both serve on the board of directors for the chamber, knows that I am a woman of integrity, what I stand for, and he and the BNA believes supporting all ethnicities and trusts me as an individual and the work that I have done with promoting the Black businesses in Williamson County. So I have a lot to say about your remarks because I personally asked for the sponsorship. BNA, because I know what these festivals do for the Black businesses and the city of Franklin. Ms. Hanson, you have missed a great time. Every year, we continue to grow and to see the officers and the city workers who are very helpful and to see the community come together is a beautiful sight. Your remarks also affected our sponsorships this year as you have tainted our name in the community, and unfortunately, others have listened to your rants. I ask that you not use your political stance to try to persuade others to not support one group but another. Yes, we are a new organization, but whether we are 3 years in existence or 30, we are doing great work. And yes, our vision and mission is unique, but we are not looters and we are not unreasonable. We have board members from different walks of life who believe that an organization such as this is needed in Williamson County. We appreciate all the support that we have received, and we hope that Ms. Hanson will become more familiar with groups for herself before passing judgment and blocking financial blessings that cannot be stopped. Thank you.
And then,
Mr. Chairman, I have a question of Ms. Blue, and it's purely clarification for me. Is the name of the organization the acronym FJEC or
Yes.
just JEC?
FJEC,
Franklin Justice Equity Coalition. Thank you.
any other questions? Thank you, ma'am. Let's see, Reverend Chris Williamson. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
And are you Chris Williamson?
My name is Reverend Dr. Chris Williamson. My wife and our 4 children have lived in the city of Franklin for 30 years. 28 years ago, I started a multiracial church in Franklin called Strong Tower Bible Church. I am also one of the architects of the Fuller Story here in Franklin, and I serve as an advisor for the Franklin Justice and Equity Coalition. Over the years, I've seen a lot transpire in our city that has been mostly positive and uplifting. But the reasons that require my presence here today are extremely concerning. When I was made aware of the email Alderman Gabrielle Hanson sent to BNA on behalf of Alma McLemore and the African American Heritage Society, I was puzzled and saddened, but unfortunately not surprised. The fact that Alderman Hanson had absolutely nothing positive to say about the FJEC in her email was astounding, especially when you consider she voted yes in 2022 and yes in 2023 to approve our downtown Juneteenth festival. My question is, if the FJEC, as she attested in her email, has a quote-unquote radical agenda and is quote-unquote equivalent to a BLM or Black Lives Matter chapter, why did the alderman vote yes for us to have our festival 2 years in a row? At no time during work session meetings or consent votes did Alderman Hanson raise the so-called concerns she wrote about in her email to BNA. Here are some of the other lies Alderman Hanson mentioned in her email. She said the FJEC seeks to defund the police. That is a lie. The truth is the FJEC has regularly worked with Chief Faulkner, Sheriff Rhodes, and the local police to serve our community. She said the FJEC was founded in the heat of BLM rioting in America. Just another dog whistle. We know that is a lie. The truth is the FJEC was founded after an outdoor community prayer vigil following the murders of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and Ahmaud Arbery, as well as Walter Simmons being profiled in his neighborhood. The local news media captured how thousands of people from Franklin attended this sacred moment in the history of our city that brought us together. She said the FJC asked the city to take Juneteenth away from the African American Heritage Society. That is a lie. The truth is, the FJEC and the city of Franklin sought to develop a partnership with the African American Heritage Society surrounding the celebration of Juneteenth, but Alma McLemore declined that offer. Gabrielle Hanson said the city and the FJC targeted the African American Heritage Society and asked for tens of thousands of dollars. Not only is that a lie, that is ludicrous. The truth is, Alderman Hanson asked for the donor list of the FJC, and now we know why. She said the African American Heritage Society has been the stalwart of celebrating Juneteenth in Franklin for decades. That is a lie. The truth is, the African American Heritage Society had held Juneteenth festivities in Hard Bargain for approximately 16 years when the FJEC had its first Juneteenth celebration in 2020. The FJC has stated repeatedly that the black community, just like the white community, is not a monolith, and with the accelerated growth and diversity of our city, multiple expressions of celebrating Juneteenth should be welcomed. Alderman Hanson, it's time for you to admit you made false statements again. It's time for you to admit that you never once sought to reach out and have a conversation with the FJC to gain a better understanding. You formed your conclusions about the FJC based on hearsay, slander, and lies presented by envious cowards. Your email to BNA was not only inexcusable, it was dastardly and divisive. I dare you to prove that you are a leader by taking responsibility for your errors. You can no longer expect others to operate under accountability while you refuse to do so yourself. The ethics code is in place to guarantee that those who are in authority never forget that they are also under authority. Prove that you are a Christian, as you profess, by repenting publicly of your lies and incendiary ways. Prove that you are a true public servant who cares about the well-being of the residents of Franklin than you do your own personal agendas by refusing to create any more foolish controversies. I hope that one day you will join the rest of us who seek the greater good of our beloved city. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate the audience refraining from clapping or otherwise demonstrating. Jeff Stewart. Good afternoon.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Jeff Stewart, and I feel I better swear something in to make sure it's not challenged after the fact.
It's not necessary.
We okay? All right. I came today as a concerned resident of Franklin, as a dear personal friend of Pastor Walter, Pastor Bryant, and also as a leader of a nonprofit here in Williamson County, One Wilco, vice president and board member, a registered 501c3 whose mission is to ensure that public schools here in Williamson County are a place where children from all racial and ethnic backgrounds can thrive, and concerned about one of our elected officials who seems to be intentionally sowing discord and dissension between organizations who seek to lift up people of color in our community. I wasn't actually intending to speak, and particularly did not want to follow my good friend, Reverend Dr. Chris Williamson, but spoke in case it is relevant or helpful to corroborate something that my friend Pastor Walter said, as I was the unnamed witness that he referenced in his testimony, and really just speaking to this specific attempt to sow discord, as I said. I was in the meeting with Pastor Walter, and a leader from a local organization who had historically supported Juneteenth, but who had pulled their support over some of these concerns that were raised. And I personally witnessed Pastor Walter saying to this leader, this individual, that you need to be supporting something for Juneteenth here in our community. You need to be supporting African-American-led nonprofits. And I'm very happy for you to support the African American Heritage Society. He was not sort of fighting to maintain the support that had previously been there, but we had an open and frank discussion, and he made it very clear that the African American Heritage Society was doing good work in the community for black people here in Franklin, and encouraged that support if, for whatever reason, they did not feel comfortable supporting the FJC's efforts. So I wanted to speak just to, again, corroborate, not under oath, as it turns out, that statement, as I was a witness there in that meeting. Thank you.
Any questions from any member? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Those are all of the notices that the chair has received that individuals want to address the commission. Is there anyone else that I'm overlooking? Very well, then the public hearing portion is closed. And the hearing itself, in terms of evidence, is closed. It'll now be up to the commission to deliberate and decide what we should do. Do you all want to take a short break before we do?
Mother Nature would appreciate that.
Then, we'll take 10 minutes. Thank you.
Check, check, 1, 2. Check, 1, 2.
Very well. At this time, ladies and gentlemen, it's the responsibility of the commission members to deliberate and determine whether there has been a violation of the Franklin Ethics Code or not, and if there has, what remedy is appropriate. Let me suggest to the members of the commission that the two code sections that are implicated are 1-805, subparagraph 1, which redacted, I think, reads, "No official may knowingly solicit anything of value for any other person." And then 1-808-2, which redacted reads, "Officials may not use or attempt to use their position to secure any privilege or exemption for others." Now, you all may want to correct me if you think there should be a different summary of those provisions, but when I went through it and tried to redact it to fit the issues today, that's what I came up with. So 808-1, no official may knowingly solicit anything of value for any other person. I'm sorry, it's 805-1. And then 808-2, officials may not use or attempt to use their position to secure any privilege or exemption for others. So then the question becomes whether Alderman Hanson in the email that was sent to Mr. Doug Crulin and the board of the Nashville Metro Airport violated either one or the other or both of those provisions. The allegations that were made regarding section 1-807-2, that connotes the use of facilities. That's been withdrawn.
Yeah, okay.
So that's not before us. The email, by the way, is a part of the complaint that was submitted by Ms. Jenkins, and it's also a part of the complaint, as I recall,
By Ms. Kingsbury.
I think by Mr. Jensen. Yes. It's, so you've got the text of the email in two different complaints, one from Mr. Jensen and one from Ms. Jenkins.
Correct.
So do we have discussion from anyone?
I just want to make a point here, Mr. Chairman. We're here to determine ethics violation, or whether a violation existed or did not exist. We're not here to determine matters of law. The only thing we're to consider is what the ethics violations that have been submitted to us, the two in which you just mentioned, the 1-805(1) and 1-808(2). That's the only two things that we're to consider, not any matter of constitutional law or anything else, or whether something's legal or illegal. These two sections, as a matter of the Franklin Municipal Code, make them legal from a standpoint of ethics.
Well, Mr. Sharber, I understand the comments you're making, and I would differ a little bit. We have a complete record in front of us. We have the complaints that have been admitted We have the statements that have been made by citizens. We have the entire answer that has been submitted by Ms. Hanson. So it's my judgment that when we make our decision, we consider everything that's been presented to us as in the complete record. Obviously, the primary focus initially is certainly on the language of the code and the language of the email. Okay. But I would suggest that whatever we do in terms of our decision should be based on the entire record.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a comment as well.
All right.
In section 805, I want to just point out, it says, for any other person may knowingly solicit. And so even though Alderman Hanson is making a petition for an organization, it is considered a person.
And let me just say that I would agree with that construction of the language in 805 paren 1. So if we begin our discussion by examining the language of section 1-805 parentheses 1, it would seem undisputed that Ms. Hanson is a public official.
Correct. Yes, she's a duly elected public official of the city of Franklin.
Second, it says no official may knowingly, but there doesn't seem to be any argument advanced on behalf of Ms. Hanson that this was a mistake or she negligently acted. I think the evidence here would support a finding that she knowingly acted. No official may knowingly solicit. So the question then becomes, is the content of the June 5th, 2023 email a solicitation? That's an issue we need to decide. Anything of value, certainly a contribution is something of value for any other person. And has just been pointed out, the not-for-profit organization of African American Heritage Society is a person within the meaning of our code. So if we isolate those issues, and focus on the question of the language of the email, it looks like, to me, the threshold issue is, was it a solicitation?
Mr. Chairman, is it your intent that we look at 1-805 and deliberate on it, and then look at 1-808 paren 2 and deliberate on it, and then come back and put them together, or should we treat them individually, or does it really make any difference?
I think it's easier if we treat them separately.
All
and
right,
determine
okay.
whether
I'm
there's
fine
been
with
a-
that. I'm fine with
Right, and determine whether there's been a violation of one or both, or neither.
Well, I mean, I think clearly the email is from an official of the city of Franklin, Alderman Hanson. I think clearly she was soliciting funds for, I'll just say, a person being the African American Heritage Society, and if she was doing it from, the solicitation was to the Nashville Airport Authority. I mean, I think that all of that is clear.
I agree. As the email that Alderman Hanson wrote, it says that write a check to the African American Heritage Society. So I think she is soliciting in that statement funds for that organization.
So to quote from her email, she says, "As an elected official, I am respectfully requesting that you either withdraw the financial support and public endorsement of FJEC or write a check to the African American Heritage Society and allow them to advertise you as a sponsor, providing the same level of financial funding that you did to the Franklin Justice and Equity Coalition."
Mr. Chairman, I also agree. I read that as directly asking for money. Write a check.
Mr. Chairman, I have a little bit of a question, I guess. In the term of the solicitation, it's clear that she solicited funds for the African American Society, but in the email, it was also withdraw. Is the act of withdrawing funds a component of the solicitation?
Well, that's something we need to consider, but and if you read the email, it speaks in terms of past tense.
Correct,
And then the
correct.
question becomes, how does an organization like the Airport Authority now withdraw money it's already paid? See, it says the same financial level of funding that you did to the FJEC. So
Correct.
the
So that-
the language would connote a conclusion that the Airport Authority has now made a contribution to the FJEC.
FJEC.
And somehow she is suggesting that it be withdrawn, or in the alternative, an equivalent amount be given to the African American Heritage Society. That's kind of hard. How do you do that?
Yeah.
So, Mr. Chairman, that speaks to Section 1808-2, when no officer shall intimidate or threaten. I think when she's saying or, requesting that you either withdraw the financial support or write a check, hinges on intimidation.
I agree.
Well, and then the
I agree.
first sentence of 8082 also is worthy of examination. That sentence, if you look at it, says, officials may not use or attempt to use. So whether she succeeded in getting money back from the Airport Authority, or whether she succeeded in preventing the Airport Authority from making a contribution, she's made an attempt under the first sentence.
Correct. And one of the speakers, I could look through my notes, made that point that it's the solicitation, not the action necessarily of whether they receive funds. And someone made that point.
I believe, Mr. Chairman, it was Ms. Jenkins.
Ms. Jenkins?
So that sentence redacted reads, officials may not use or attempt to use their position to secure any privilege or exemption for others. And then it goes on to read, just as my colleague here has pointed out, no officer shall intimidate, threaten, coerce, discriminate against, or give the appearance of or attempt to intimidate, threaten, coerce, discriminate against The problem I have with that second sentence is this, the word employee there. If it had said other or was generic, when it refers to the word employee, I have difficulty finding that the second sentence will apply. Does that make sense?
Well,
But the first sentence of subsection 2 speaks in terms of others, and that's a broad terminology that encompasses the African American Heritage Society.
are you interpreting the employee to be an employee of the city of Franklin?
Well, yes, I am, because this is the City of Franklin's ethics code. You know, you raise a good question, Mr. Sharber. It says threaten, coerce, discriminate against any employee for the purpose of interfering with that person's freedom of choice in the regular discharge of official duties.
Yes, so, I mean, I think you could even interpret that employee as being an employee of the airport authority.
Or some other organization.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I may be reading it too narrowly.
Yeah. I mean, I totally agree with what you said, but having looked at it in relationship to employee being, and I'm sorry, I don't remember the gentleman's name, of the airport authority that the email went to. I mean,
Doug Crewley.
yeah, I mean, he's an employee of the authority, and yes, you're interfering with that person's freedom of choice in regular discharge of their duties. It doesn't say their duties, but official duties.
But when you read the ethics code, it consistently uses the words officials or employees, officials or employees.
Right.
Throughout the code.
Exactly.
So I think a fair reading of the second sentence of subsection 2 of section 1-808 really limits its application to the City of Franklin employees.
Mr. Chairman, I agree with that, and I think the way that I read this, it says employees, but the intent is to not use position and intimidate others in their decisions. That's how I read that. The intention is that intimidation, coercing is not how we do business.
Oh, I agree. The problem I have is that it all seems to modify the word employee. In other words, no officer shall intimidate, threaten, coerce, discriminate against, or give the appearance of attempting to do any of those things against any employee. And when you look at the ethics code, the word employee is consistently used throughout the code along with officials. So you see officials and employees, officials and employees. So I think a fair reading is that this second sentence of 1-808 subsection 2 really applies to City of Franklin employees. So I think the threatening, intimidation, coercion, and discrimination has to be directed to a City of Franklin employee as opposed to an employee of some other entity. But the first sentence is not limited. In other words, if you look at the first sentence, it says officials and employees. Well, we're talking about a public official here, not an employee. So you redact that to read, officials may not use or attempt to use their position to secure any privilege or exemption for others.
Correct.
Yeah.
Sounds like we've deliberated on both of them.
We are, and that's okay. I think getting a grasp on the language of the code and will help us know how to apply it to the facts of the email. So the fact that we're skipping back and forth between 805 and 808 is fine. So going back to 805, I think we have a consensus that Ms. Hanson is in fact an official of the city of Franklin, clearly an elected official. And she's presented herself in that capacity in her June 5th, 2023 email. We have discussed the word knowingly, and there's no evidence that she was mistaken, that she was negligent, that she did anything other than compose this email with the intent with which it is indicated. So she acted knowingly. Did she then solicit anything of value for any other person? And what she's soliciting is, arguably, that's for the commission to decide, she's soliciting a contribution equivalent to the contribution that has been made to the FJEC, assuming that the language of her email is accurate, that that contribution has already been made. And to quote, withdraw it, close quote, doesn't seem to be feasible.
In addition to asking or requesting, respectfully requesting, withdraw the financial support or write a check. So that's writing a check, asking for money, and allow them to advertise you as a sponsor, providing the same level of funding. So something of value, there's money involved, but also using the name as a sponsor. There's value in using the name of a sponsor. That's why we put things on shirts and whatnot.
Right. And to include the fact that the solicitation was for someone else. I mean, I'll say someone else. That's not the term that's used, but it says any other person. And it's to receive benefit from. Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'll make a motion that this commission find that Alderman Hanson violated section 1-805, paren 1, with her email signifying that she was an official and that she was soliciting funds from the airport authority for the African American Historical Society to match what the airport authority had decided on their own to donate to the Franklin Justice Equity Coalition. I'll make that in the form of a motion.
Very well.
I second the motion.
So we have a motion and seconded. Do we have further discussion on that motion? So if we have no further discussion, all in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And the chairman votes aye. Let's turn our attention to section 1-8082. Again, looking at that section in a redacted fashion, officials, clearly Alderman Hanson is a public official, may not use or attempt to use their position. And she's identified herself as an elected official of the city of Franklin to secure any privilege or exemption for others.
I think it's pretty clear, Mr. Chairman, that that's exactly what Alderman Hanson did.
I agree.
So the finding of fact would be that Alderman Hanson, in her June the 5th, 2023 email, is identifying herself as an elected official, and she is using her position or attempting to use her position in that regard to secure a privilege or exemption for the African American Heritage Society.
And I'll put that in the form of a motion.
Okay, we have a second?
Second.
Second. Do we have any further discussion on that? There being no further discussion, do we have a vote? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The chair votes aye. So we found that Alderman Hanson, in her conduct through the June the 5th, 2023 email, has violated two provisions of the Franklin Municipal Code, and we're making that finding based on the entire record, Ms. Ainsworth, that's been presented here today. The question then is, what should be the next step or the sanction? In section 1-813, it says, this is entitled violations.
Was
Says
that
elect-
was that 813?
Yeah, 1-813. Says an elected official who violates any provision of this chapter is subject to punishment as provided in the municipality's charter and/or other applicable law, and in addition is subject to censure by the governing body. Now, the governing body is the Board of Mayor and Aldermen.
Right, it's not us.
So this commission does not have the authority to censure Alderman Hanson. Unless the charter of the city of Franklin grants that authority, and I'm unaware of any provision in the city charter that would do so, and I'm unaware of any other applicable law that would grant that authority to this commission.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
under section 2-310,
Yeah, I'm getting there. So this is 2-3-10-7? Yeah. So we have
Yes.
another code provision that has been brought to our attention. This is section 2-310, subparagraph 7. That reads, based upon specific substantiated evidence from credible sources to support a reasonable belief that there has been a violation of the ethics code, it shall, let me read that. Says that if the Ethics Commission determines that specific substantiated evidence from credible sources exists to support a reasonable belief that there's been a violation of the Ethics Code, then it shall, it's mandatory, render a written decision stating facts supporting that finding and conclusions of law and censure as appropriate. Okay?
May I ask that you go back to 813
Yeah.
and make the point that you were going to make? And then look at this 310(7). So we can sort of see how they match up.
So 813 redacted reads, an elected official who violates any provision of this chapter is subject to punishment as provided in the charter and/or other applicable law, and in addition is subject to censure by the governing body. And then you're comparing that, Mr. Sharber, with 2-310(7), which says that we shall render our decision stating facts supporting our conclusion of law and censure as appropriate. Now, I think that the last two words give this commission discretion to recommend to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen that it censure Ms. Hanson, but it doesn't mandate that we do that.
It just says that we just have to submit a written decision.
We have to submit a written decision, and then we can submit that to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen with the finding that Ms. Hanson should be censured. But we do not have the authority to censure her. But you look at 813, it's a little stronger in the sense that it says the elected official who violates any provision of this charter and/or applicable law is subject to censure by the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. So that's a little stronger.
Yeah, I agree. You're subject to that.
Yes.
But in 310(7), I mean, it mandates, shall,
Right,
that we make a decision,
a written decision.
written decision, based on the facts and the findings, conclusions of law and censor as appropriate. So if we simply relate our decision that Alderman Hanson violated the code, the ethics codes of the city of Franklin in section 1-805(1) and 1-808(2), we can render that as our written decision.
That's correct. Or you can go further and recommend to the board that she be censured.
And if we make a recommendation like that, then the action of the board is as they deem appropriate.
That's right. They're not required to accept our recommendation. Or at least that's the way I read it. Ms. Ashworth, what's your thought on it?
It could also be read under 18131, that subject to punishment is provided by the municipality's charter and/or other applicable law, which would be 23107. So it could also be read as the governing body has the ability to censure, and the Ethics Commission under 310.7 also has the ability to censure as appropriate. Because 310.7 is arguably other applicable law. It does not take away the ability to censure. It gives that to the Ethics Commission, censure as appropriate, and further, under 18131, the governing body, the person is subject to censure by the governing body.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
as the commission, we have the option to say that Alderman Hanson section has violated 805 Section 1, 808 Section 2, and we recommend or refer her to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen for appropriate action.
You could. You could.
We actually have several options here available to us. Whatever we decide, it's going to be public record, and it's going to be available to anyone. I'll make a motion that based on section 1-813 paren 1, and 2-310 paren 7, that we issue a written decision supporting the facts of which we've already stated in 1-805 and 1-808 as to our findings.
And you're not suggesting that we refer the matter to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen for their consideration of censure?
That's correct.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I want to make sure I understand the motion. So the motion is that we are not sending forth a recommendation to the mayor and board of aldermen to take another action. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, for the board to consider censure. That's what I understand.
Not to,
That's not my motion. My motion is, because we're required to render a written decision stating our facts, okay, that's part of 310 paren 7.
right.
That, and I'm sort of dissecting this, that we render our decision with the written facts that we've already talked about, that we believe that Alderman Hanson violated the ethics code, that our written decision is that we render a decision stating the facts that we've said. We render the decision, and then we stop right there. I'm not saying we're not doing anything else. I'm just saying that I'm sort of piecing it, and that our written decision will be based on paren 7 and paren 1 out of 813. If I understand that we can do that.
And
Can-
Mr. Chairman, if we do that, that ends our comments on this matter?
It will, and then whether the board would ever consider it or not remains to be seen.
That's my intent of my motion,
What's your intent?
is that we do that and we just end it. But we don't send it to the board. If they want to pick it up from public record, that'd be up to the board. Because
Can I
there's
make a
nothing that
comment?
says that we have to send anything to the board after we make a decision. Am I correct in understanding that?
That's correct.
Should we ask our counselor? Are we obligated to send something to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen?
No, I think the confusion that, that Commission Member Wilson has is regarding the censure portion of your motion. Is there anything, and also while I'm speaking, I would say that whatever you decide to do needs to include the language in sub 7 that the Ethics Commission determines that specific substantiated evidence from credible sources exist to support a reasonable belief that there has been a violation of the Ethics Code, specifically those two codes.
And I'm fine with that. I think
Well,
that
and
should be.
Mr. Sharber said that. I think if you go back and
Okay,
read the
I
record,
might have been
he's been
writing.
very clear that he wants our order to make it specific, to say that that's the basis of our decision.
All right.
Our findings. Well, we've got a motion.
I'm not addressing censor. That's what I'm not.
What you're suggesting is we simply find that there's been a violation of two code sections and leave it at that. Is there a second to that motion?
I want to make a comment. I don't want to
Well,
second
we
yet.
can't discuss it until we have
Okay.
a second. If there's no second, it'll die for lack of a second. And we have no second. It dies for lack of a second. We have any other motion?
I'll make a motion that, as we have noted, there has been an ethic violation of our code in 805 and 808, as we have noted and recorded, and that we make a so we write our findings and send that to the board, and that we recommend that there is censure, that there is accountability for the actions of Alderman Hanson.
That's clear. Do we have a second of that motion? I second it. So further discussion.
I would be happy to make a comment on this. As I listen, as I read, and we're trying to apply the ethical code and looking at the email that we have, and we've also heard witnesses speak. And some of the things that I heard related to integrity and respect for the ordinances and the impact of this one message are of great concern to me. And they are of such concern to me that I just don't want to ignore that. So I'll stop there.
Do we have any further discussion on the motion that's on the floor?
Your motion includes sending it to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen with the recommendation of censure.
That's correct. Being no further discussion, and we'll take a vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. We are unanimous. So, Ms. Ashworth, would you please prepare an order for our consideration that includes the findings of fact and conclusions of law using the standard that is set forth in subsection 7 of section 2-310, and include in the order that the matter be referred to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen with a recommendation that Ms. Hanson be censored.
Yes.
Very well. Is any further business coming before the commission?
I'll make a motion that the 7th of July 6th be approved.
I second it.
All in favor? Aye. Very good. Then there being no further business, we are adjourned. Thank you all.
Can I ask a clarifying question?
Yes.
So the post-hearing provision speaks to the appeal provision, writ of certiorari within 30 days from the date the decision is rendered.
The,
We're at Roman numeral 8:1.
what code section are you looking at, Mr. Harwich?
Sorry, I'm in your amended bylaws and procedures.
Okay, you're in the bylaws now. Let me look at those with you. And you're under the post-hearing section?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't think that's anything other than a restatement of our law.
No, I understand. What I'm trying to figure out, so 30 days from the date of the decision, I just want to make sure that there's not
Right.
disagreement as to when the decision was rendered.
Ms. Ashworth, I think that the 30 days begins to run once we enter the order. I don't know. I mean,
It's date of decision, and I believe you just decided.
that's correct, but we have to, we've decided, but we're required to make the decision in writing. So
Just-
we have decided, but the mandate is it be a written decision with findings of fact and conclusions of law, and until we sign off on the decision, I don't think that mandate will have been met. Ms. Billingsley?
The problem is my interpretation of that versus a judge hearing a writ, what Mr. Horowitz is concerned about.
Yeah, I mean, historically, the way boards work, when you make a decision on the floor, that's the date of the decision. It's a little different than courts of law where you do wait on the order to be drafted and signed by a judge. You as a body made that decision just now. We will write it up, but the decision has already been made today.
And the judicial review is based on the record, and there's a full record. The transcript will go in as well.
It will, yes.
What they're saying, Mr. Horwitz, the safe course of action is to seek certiorari within 30 days of today.
And I tend to agree with that. I just don't know what the decision to be appealed is without that written order, and I don't know if you have to approve the minutes of this meeting first.
Well, Ms. Ashworth won't delay. She'll get an order to us quickly.
Yeah, and we'll call the board back together to approve the minutes, probably within the next, however long it takes to get the transcript. But with a planning commission, for example, the day that the board approves a planning commission denial or approval is the decision. Whether or not it makes it into the, a document or not, it's that day.
Very well.
Do we want to go ahead and select a date that you'll call us back? So that Mr. Hollis will know when we'll be doing that?
I think we're going to need to meet with the court reporter to find out when we can get the documents. So I don't know if we can do that right this second.
Okay.
That'll be fine. Anything further? All right, we are adjourned. Thank you.